Welcome to Urban Green Space as a public health resource. Lessons from Ottawa's Fletcher Wildlife Garden, an online presentation for the 2014 Health, Wellness and Society Conference. We'll be looking at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden as an illustration of the human health potential of active engagement with green space, and as an example of the sort of initiative public health practitioners could develop partnerships with. But before we start talking about the Fletcher Wildlife Garden, let's take a background look at green space, or nature in general, and human health. Research interest in this relationship has been growing, and here's what people are saying. That nature is a foundation of health and well-being, a potential goldmine for health promotion, and a valuable and versatile health resource that is seriously underestimated, with therapeutic value yet to be fully realized. With respect to mental wellness in particular, contact with nature has been described as a strategy that is cost-effective, widely accessible, clinically valid, and free of adverse side effects. Green space and nature are generally considered pleasant amenities or even luxuries in urban neighborhoods, yet access to nature is increasingly being considered a health necessity because of the benefits it offers. Green outdoor settings have been associated with general physical, mental, spiritual, social, and environmental wellness. Specific benefits include reduced levels of the stress hormone cortisol, rapid and more complete recovery from stress, lower blood pressure and pulse rate, and both cognitive restoration and better cognitive performance. Research also reveals that physical activity in natural outdoor locations is more effective at improving physical and mental health than exercise in other places, or than physical exercise alone, with the key being the green, outdoor setting of the physical activity. Interestingly, the wide-ranging human benefits of contact with nature, which are increasingly being revealed by research, are not new knowledge. Medical Dr. William Bird, for example, writes, "It would be a surprise to anyone living 150 years ago that people should now question whether nature is good for our health." Bird refers to historical figures like St. Bernard, who 1,000 years ago described the benefits experienced by a sick individual who sat in an enclosure with trees, shaded from the heat, and bathed in the fragrance of vegetation. Bird also quotes Florence Nightingale, who noted in the mid-1800s that patients with a view of brightly coloured flowers from their windows recovered perceptibly faster than those who looked out onto what she described as dead walls. American landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted, well known for designing large public parks in urban environments, like Central Park, New York City, is also acknowledged for acting on his belief that people need access to nature to relieve stress, something that empirical research is now supporting. Yet with the rise of medical technology and scientific medicine in the 20th century, the health benefits of nature were pushed to the margins of health inquiry and practice, resulting in what Bird describes as a temporary amnesia, a forgetting that health researchers and scholars in other areas of inquiry, along with community environmental groups and concerned citizens, are seeking to overcome. Which brings us to the Fletcher Wildlife Garden. The Fletcher Wildlife Case Study was designed for the purpose of understanding the relationships which develop between volunteers and the natural world they work with on site, and the significance of those relationships. The study also sought insight into the reasons why the project is so compelling to people who volunteer there. What exactly is the Fletcher Wildlife Garden? It's an 18-acre piece of land in Ottawa, managed to cultivate wildlife habitat in the city and to demonstrate habitat gardening approaches and techniques. The Fletcher Wildlife Garden is maintained by volunteers, and it contains different components. For example, a backyard garden, new woods, butterfly meadow, amphibian pond, ash woodlot, all distinct spaces which engage volunteers in different activities and foster diverse relationships with the natural world. The case study took an ethnographic, multi-method approach involving 150 hours of participant observation, interviews with 27 volunteers, including 18 women and 9 men, and document review of various information sources including the Fletcher Wildlife Garden website, photoblog, newsletters, reports, files, and other printed material, as well as wildlife and gardening-related educational information available on site. Here's a closer look at one of the components of the Fletcher Wildlife Garden, the backyard garden. This is the butterfly bed, which attracts butterflies and other pollinators. This is the little pond, which attracts insects, frogs, turtles, and humans. This is the rockery, which demonstrates what people can do on rocky, dry land. Here is an orchid in the wooded section of the backyard garden, which shows people what they can do in shady areas. And here are Canada anemone flowers growing along a path through another part of the backyard garden. These are mainly wild, native plants. The backyard garden is a very beautiful part of the Fletcher Wildlife Garden, and the people who volunteer there and elsewhere on site derive a wide range of benefits from their work. One of the most obvious benefits is physical wellness. Physical activity is at the core of the Fletcher Wildlife Garden volunteer experience, which includes a wide variety of possible tasks, things like soil preparation, planting, weeding, watering, mulching, transplanting, pruning, composting, picking up garbage, general maintenance tasks, and more. Many of the volunteers involved in the Fletcher Wildlife Garden are attracted by the opportunity to engage in physical activity there, to participate in outdoor work on site. Here's what they have to say. Paul tells me, "I like working with my hands." Glenda says, "I like the physical activity." Randy is emphatic. "I like the harder physical stuff," he says. Some of the volunteers make the very clear point that working at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden is a welcome alternative exercise option. Joe, for example, says, "I'm not fond of normal exercise options, and this works up a sweat and feels purposeful." Gordon explains, "One can get all the exercise one needs pulling weeds and pruning trees. I come back feeling quite refreshed." Another important benefit is social contact, since most of the Fletcher Wildlife Garden work happens in teams or in the company of other people. Here's what the volunteers reveal. That working on a team with others is important. Glenda, for example, says, "Working with the people here, that's very important to me." Shared interests and passions are also important to volunteers. Cindy declares, "I really enjoy being surrounded by people that share similar passions and interests. I really love it all." Out of the teamwork and shared interests, friendships can also develop. Marie, for example, tells me, "I like being with the people there. It fills a social void." Another volunteer tells me that volunteering at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden is important because she lives alone, and her involvement in the project offers the opportunity to make friends. Those social contacts can also be inspiring to volunteers. Evelyn, for example, says, "I really like being with this group of people. I find them inspiring." As much as the volunteers share, as much as they inspire each other, differences can arise and escalate into tension and conflict at times. But it is worth noting that situations of conflict can also encourage compassion and bonding among volunteers, as witnessed on several occasions when individuals lent a sympathetic ear and attempted to help affected volunteers deal with upsetting circumstances. One research participant told me about frustrating experiences with bossy people when she first started volunteering, but she now considers her fellow team members to be a very, very nice bunch of people. Teamwork, shared interests, friendship, inspiration, these are just some of the many personal rewards of volunteering at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden. Other personal meanings also emerged from the case study, quite a few actually, and we can't cover them all here, so let's focus on serenity, sanctuary, and enrichment. For many volunteers, the Fletcher Wildlife Garden is a place of serenity and sanctuary. Here's what they say. Randy tells me, "I like the peacefulness of the place. I'm comfortable here. I like being here." Marie puts it in broader terms. "I see it as a sanctuary for wildlife," she says. "Also for the people that come here to get away from the city without leaving the city. A calm, soothing place to go." Sheila agrees. "You negate all that traffic," she tells me. "You get here and all that anxiety just peels away." Audrey makes an interesting statement. She talks about the Fletcher Wildlife Garden being somewhere to go to get back to the soil when you get tired of asphalt. Tracy is very passionate when she tells me, to have a space that's this close to home is like heaven. It's really relaxing to come over here and sit. It's such a break. I can breathe. As much as the Fletcher Wildlife Garden offers volunteers serenity, sanctuary, and a place to breathe, it also provides opportunities for stimulation and personal enrichment. Volunteers find stimulation and personal enrichment through discovery, learning, and other types of fulfillment. Tracy, for example, tells me, there's always something to see and learn. This place is full of constant surprises. Mark feels strongly about the learning aspect. This is a great place to learn, he says. I learn something new every time. Glenda is enthusiastic about learning at the Fletcher Wildlife Garden. You know what? I'm always learning. Always, 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 she tells me. Just working here is a learning experience. While learning is satisfying to all Fletcher Wildlife Garden volunteers, many also feel enriched by varying combinations of personal achievement and group accomplishment. Lisa, for example, says that it's nice to have some kind of responsibility and that it's also nice to be able to contribute to something worthwhile. Gordon makes a statement that the Fletcher Wildlife Garden forms a non-threatening environment to achieve fulfillment. This wide range of health benefits, these experiences of physical, social, and personal wellness that are possible when people engage in outdoor physical activity in places like the Fletcher Wildlife Garden, all these benefits make urban green space a potentially powerful public health resource. Kate interestingly says, I see my efforts contributing to a healthier Ottawa. She is not the only one to recognize the public health potential of green spaces such as the Fletcher Wildlife Garden. Author Richard Louv and environmental and occupational health scientist Howard Frumpkin point out that since people derive so much benefit from contact with nature, it should be considered a potentially powerful form of preventive medicine. They call for a new vision of public health, along with a public health strategy that includes protecting natural areas and creating places that offer access to nearby green space. Others working in the health field encourage public health professionals to take advantage of opportunities and to face challenges relating to integrating nature into health interventions. For example, advising patients to spend time in nearby green space or to get involved in gardening. Also to collaborate with community partners, for example with regional walking, hiking, and cycling clubs which organize regular guided excursions in the open air, or with community and botanical gardens which offer opportunities to work outside with plants and soil, or with local groups working to support public parks, wildlife sanctuaries, beaches, and other areas. Groups that often seek volunteers to help clear trails, remove invasive species, plant trees, and more. Also to take advantage of opportunities to participate in protecting community green space so that people can access it, and to interact with those responsible for natural areas. And finally, not to be afraid to aim high, to prioritize green space in health research, policy, and planning. For example, working with landscape organizations, nature conservation and park authorities, urban and social planning agencies to weave green space protection and access into planning exercises and into policies. The potential positive influences on human health may be well worth the effort of working with and for green space in urban and other areas, but particularly in cities where access to nature tends to be more limited. Evidence, interestingly, indicates that people tend to adhere longer to programs involving outdoor activity than to more conventional exercise regimes. So let's get started matching opportunities for outdoor green activity with the people who need it. The health benefits of nature and green space are too many to ignore. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure to share with you. If you have any questions or would like to get in touch for more information, feel free to contact me, Renate Sander-Regier at /Sander-Regier at uottawa.ca. Here also is a list of information sources I refer to during the presentation. and we invite you to watch for the full manuscript of this presentation in the next issue of the International Journal of Health, Wellness and Society. Thank you again.